Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Taubenslag, the proud son of Elliott Taubenslag, while we're all here. When I was a child, I was known, many of you probably know my nickname as Little what? Elliot. And I always hated it because it was annoying to me, but as I got older, and especially now, it's really a badge of honor. So thank you for celebrating with us today, and let a life well lived begin.
If you were going to describe Elliot just using adjectives, what adjectives would you use?
Crazy.
Honest and honorable.
Old soul.
He's a spunky, exciting, surprising man.
Energetic, relentless, creative.
Well, he's crazy, old, Mexican, a lunatic? No, that's a no.
Inspirational. Eccentric.
Quirky, family.
He's funny. But to describe Elliot to people who don't know him, you'd have to say you missed the greatest experience of your life in not knowing this man, because he has brought such joy, matched with aggravation, to millions of people, and he will never stop till the day he goes up to that great theater in the sky.
I would call him the amazing Mr. Taubenslag.
That's right.
Amazing is pretty much the word for L.
Yes.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Many people have been mentored, and it's not always something that happens in your lifetime that you get an opportunity to thank your mentor or a teacher that has meant a lot to you. And I have somebody in the audience tonight who has been my mentor since I was 8 years old in drama. I did work with him in New York City. He flew in tonight. This is the first time he's ever seen anything I've directed, and I owe everything I am to this man. And I'm really excited that he's here tonight, and I'd like to personally thank him, and that is Mr. Elliott Taubenslag. Elliot, can you stand up?
Maureen, can I say something for a second?
Sure.
I flew in today. It was a 12-hour trip, and I was really excited about coming. I wouldn't have missed this for anything. However, I'm very concerned right now.
He's very concerned.
Right. In other words, when they find out that part of the curtain is being used for your dress. Dad was an incredible guy, funny. 3 years before he passed, 3 years ago, he gave me an envelope and he said, Michael, I wrote my own eulogy. And he said, I want this read when I pass at my memorial service. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yes. I said, well, Dad, I'll doctor it in case it's lousy. And my nephew Dan is going to come up, wherever you are, and read my dad's eulogy. Daniel Taubenslag. A captain in the Air Force. Very proud of this man.
Hi, everybody. So, I will be reading Elliott Taubenslag's, my grandfather's eulogy. And when I read this, I don't want you to imagine me up here. I want you to imagine Elliott Taubenslag himself speaking these words, because these are his words. Actually, you know what? I'm going to help you with that. All right, so now that you all have that lovely mental image, greetings. It was in all caps. If you're sitting in this room listening to this message, it means that you're here and, well, I'm not. I realize that giving a eulogy for oneself is a bit out of the ordinary, but then again, when was the last time I did something ordinary? If there's anyone out there foolishly feeling sorry or sad over my departure, don't. It's been a long and fruitful ride. The reason for my writing this is to say thank you for bringing so much joy into my life, giving my life and existence a purpose. First, there was Myrna, whom I met when she was only 17 and I was 22. Prior to meeting her, I dated many and often. But none of my dates were what you would call very attractive. They were quite average or less. Then I met a girl on a blind date that was so attractive that I was sure she was sorry she accepted the date. She was shapely, large-breasted, tan, with beautiful sparkling eyes and a cheerful smile. What could she see in me? Short, slightly overweight, and almost no money. Maybe it was the abundance of curls upon curls that sat upon my youthful head. At the end of our first date, I shook her hand and we said goodnight. I was too afraid to offend her with a kiss. After all, who kisses a goddess? After our second date, I braved up and a peck on the cheek. But by our next date, we both puckered up and let it rip. Wow. What the hell had I been waiting for? She wasn't just a goddess, she was a sex goddess. I want to clarify that this is Elliot talking, and I am not referring to my own grandmother as a sex goddess. I had found the woman that I would spend the rest of my life with. When I proposed to her, I told her that I would probably never be rich, but that I would make our marriage exciting. It would never be dull. I think I've kept my promise, and I hope I made her as happy as she made me. This marriage was filled with laughter, as well as love and pride. We produced 3 children who have given us much to be proud of. They, in spite of us, grew to adulthood and have each achieved much in their own way. David, Debbie, Michael, how can I tell you how happy you made me with your love, your caring, your constant attention, your frequent phone calls. You're sharing all kind of information about what was happening in your lives. This was very important to an old man. And how you never lost patience with all my questions and suggestions. How did you handle all that? On top of that, you gave us 5 wonderful grandsons: Nick, Robbie, Joshua, Adam, and the best of them all, Danny. One of them, Nick, even has a flair, no, a gift for writing. I have been proud of all 5, and I'm sure they will continue to achieve and bring even more pride to our family. And when I say family, I must also include Patty, Dominic, and Donna, who always treated us with care and respect. It was always a treat to be with them. Poor Dominic had to put up with me for 8 weeks each summer as I ran the East Brunswick Children's Theater. I've been told that fish and guests should be thrown out after 3 days, and yet Dominic kept us for weeks without complaining. My family extends to beyond the ones that I've spoken about so far. There is, of course, Myrna's brother and sister-in-law, Harvey and Merle, with whom we've had a close and loving relationship. Then there are friends who have become extended family. Naomi, whom I've had lovingly tortured for just about 50 years. How she took the teasing, the bickering, for so many years, without her husband and my good friend Mort to protect her. Even sharing a closet dressing room for changing costumes. She deserves martyrdom. If she had any sense at this point, Now that I'm gone, she should be yelling, "Free at last, free at last." Prepare for another mental image. Then there's Evelyn, whom I met when we moved into Bangor Court directly across from the condo. How this poor woman must have suffered each morning as she sat down at her kitchen window having a cup of coffee, looking at me, open my door, still in my undershorts, while I reached for the morning newspaper. However, I did notice that Evelyn's blinds were never closed. So I thought to myself, what the hell? Perhaps maybe since her terrific husband Lenny was gone, this was her daily thrill. Maybe it was a good thing. Along the way, I hope I did a number of good things. I don't believe I've done too many bad things. I know I've never intentionally hurt anyone's feelings, and I've tried to help when my efforts could do some good, and I genuinely believe that I helped some young people get through hard times by just listening and accepting, as well as offering advice when it was asked for. I recognize that I'm far from a saint. I'm much too horny for that. I lost my place. But I have tried to live with the philosophy that a black teacher whom I knew introduced me to. One day he said to me, "Elliot, you have to make up your mind. Are you here for a season or are you here for a reason?" And I replied, "What are you talking about?" You see, if you're here for a season, you're like a leaf. You grow, you develop, and when it's time, you wither away and finally blow away. And you end up on a part of a pile of other dead leaves. But if you're here for a reason, you do things, accomplish things, and your life was worthwhile. I have thought about what my friend has taught me many times. We all know that I never achieved greatness, but that doesn't matter. What does matter to me is that I attempted to be here for a reason and not just a season. I hope that my family and friends will think of me as having succeeded. In conclusion, I'd like to say that I hope what I have written down doesn't sound like a mushy soap opera, all sweet and rosy, because no one's life is like that. Mine certainly wasn't. There were times of problems, sickness, operations, frustrations, worries, losing loved ones, etc. I guess I could compare my life to a roller coaster ride. Exciting, full of shrieks and sudden jolts, lots of laughter, lots of scary movements, but at the end, a feeling of, wow, that was fun. Thank you all for making my ride through life so much fun. Elliot. I'm keeping this on.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Again, a captain in the United States Air Force. I'm very proud of you, man. Around 15 years ago, I was rewriting Alice in Wonderland, and I wrote a song for the Cheshire Cat that she sings to Alice. And basically the song is called Believe in Yourself. And it was really my dad's philosophy about how he dealt with children. So I'm going to bring up Sharon Farrell. She's going to sing. By the way, if anybody's interested, we'll be selling these hats in the lobby for $3. This right here is a Pinocchio hat. If it was green, it would be a Peter Pan hat. Blue, a Jack and the Beanstalk hat. Brown, a Pocahontas hat. Whatever show we did, we had to wear them. Sharon Farrell.
Hello. appears. You've already come this far. But don't be afraid of mistakes that you've made. Just be proud of the person you are. If you believe in you, like I believe in you, you can have anything, anything. If you believe, dream beautiful dreams. Have faith from the start. Believe in yourself. Believe in your heart. If you believe in you, like I believe in you, you can go anywhere, anywhere. If you believe, if you believe in you, your daydreams can come true. You can have anything, anything. If you believe, 'cause when I look at you, I see what you can do. I know that you can go far. So follow my lead and I know you'll succeed. Just be proud of the person you are. If you believe in you, like I believe in you, you can do anything, anything. If you believe, dream beautiful dreams. Have faith from the start. Believe in yourself. Just believe in yourself. Yes, believe in yourself. Believe in your heart.
Hi there. So I was in Elliott's summer theater for 11 years, and I wrote this to Michael, and he asked me to read it today. So. When I was a young child, my sister and I used to use our mother's old dining room curtains and put on shows in our basement. We would cut mustaches out of brown construction paper and use old prom dresses from our mother, and she would type out all the quoted lines from a storybook, and we would piece it into a production. At the age of 8, I joined Elliott Taubenslag's East Brunswick Children's Summer Theater program and discovered there were so many others like us out there. And at the helm, Michael was holding down the fort that summer, with Elliot returning shortly after what I think was a heart attack I can only surmise came from the jubilant and boisterous way he would deliver everything he said. I learned quickly that Elliot was creating a culture among us that replicated his zest for life, full of joy, love, support, enthusiasm, and listening. Somehow, this grown man had accomplished taking that exact same passion we had putting up a show in our basement and allowed hundreds of children each summer a safe space to do the same thing on a much larger scale. He made playing pretend a trend. He taught us how to band together. The first thing you learn in summer theater is to physically lean toward the person speaking on the stage and listen. I attended a well-renowned music theater conservatory and worked 8 years after college in theater, and I promise there are many, many actors and humans in the world who still have not learned this skill. The second lesson was that you have to deliver your lines to the last row of the audience or they wouldn't hear you. Speak up. A life lesson drilled into our minds daily. These are pretty much the two fundamentals of communication that can lead to solving almost any life issue, and Elliot possessed more of these skills in his pinky finger than many people could learn how to practice in a lifetime. Elliot knew how to praise you to high heaven when you did something generous, paid attention, and remembered something, or were brave. He also made you feel terrible if you treated someone poorly, but forgave you quickly and embraced you when you accepted and made changes after that realization. He had a job for every child, funneling self-worth and confidence to every last participant at camp. He made us work hard and feel the reward of self-pride when we had completed our task. And that was wonderful, and also enough motivation to make us want to be better all the time. The lyrics he wrote and taught us always had a way of bringing appreciation for the world around us into the picture. And yet he also wasn't afraid to make being a little evil a lot of fun. He made us laugh at ourselves and each other and taught us that the most important thing was not our own solo performances, but that as a team we told the story well. The theater, life, and playing well with and accepting others' skills Elliot gave us at summer theater camp were invaluable and have been ingrained in my heart throughout my life since the many comedy-filled summers we all spent together with him at camp. And when I think of that time, I know his spirit is alive in us all. We love you, Elliot, and we know wherever you are, the sun will be shining bright and smiling overhead. And finally, sadly but joyfully, I must close with this, as it fittingly encapsulates both his sentimentality and optimism, as when I hear it, I know I will forever look forward to seeing everyone next summer. Now the time has come when we must say goodbye, farewell, or even toodaloo, but happiness never ends.
By a show of hands, how many people did summer theater? Clap your hands if you did summer theater. How many of you performed in New York City? How many of you portrayed Tweedledee or Tweedledum? I was one of them. We have now a number, a vaudeville number. Is it up? That's my dad when he was 18 years old. With a good friend of his, David, who was that? Seymour Camp? Seymour Camp, a great friend of his. They used to perform at the, I guess, Fort Kilmer for the, for the soldiers. Many of you don't, for the what, David? Italian, what? My brother didn't want to speak, but he finally did. Yay. Many of you also don't know, when Elliot was young, he performed with Lucille Ball, Vivian Vance, Paul Muni. He performed at McCarter Theater. He grew up performing. That's how he basically lived his life. Now we're going to do a number which is perfect for Dad, the Tweedledee and Tweedledum number from Alice in Wonderland. They'll never split us apart, performed by Michael and Mara Fleming. Take it away.
Partners,
Mary, you going to talk or no? I guess not. Are you going to talk? Here she goes.
Come here, Mike. On behalf of all of us here from Summit Theater, all the way from, whether you flew in from Plattsburgh or Bagari, Rottingham, thank you, Michael T. Thank you, thank you, Debbie. Thank you for sharing your father with all of us, because he was a father to all of us, too.
An artist friend of Dad made this of Dad. This is a coconut, and it does really look like him. Talking about Dad, my beautiful sister Debbie would like to come up and say some words. My older sister Debbie would like to say some words.
I actually have a Father's Day letter I wrote in 2006. And when I wrote it and read it to him on that day, he was so moved and he said, Deb, one day I'm not going to be here. Will you please read it at my funeral? And I said, okay. So here we go. Father's Day 2006. Dear Dad, the other day I was reflecting about my life and realized that I had quite an extraordinary adventure with you as my dad. As you know, when I was graduating college, I went to seek counseling to help me decide what I should do next. She had me talk about my childhood, and after hearing my stories, believed that I was completely delusional. She thought, how could anyone live in such a fantasy world? This girl really needs help. How could she have possibly known that my dad created a world of magic, make-believe, and wonder, not just to me, but to hundreds, maybe even thousands of other kids who were lucky enough to cross his path? I remember you brought a train with real seats into our backyard where all the kids in the neighborhood would play for hours. I remember you taking us for a horse and buggy ride around the block, which you stored in the neighbor's garage before they moved in. I remember you dressing up in a gorilla costume, waiting for some stupid teenager to dare try and squish our pumpkins. And boy, did we laugh when you would run out of the house and scare the crap out of them. I remember you throwing us a Halloween party in the basement. You turned off the lights and told a scary story in complete darkness, how a lady died in a car accident and came back piece by piece. You then passed around spaghetti as her innards, olives as her eyes, and God knows what you used for her brain, but it quickly became a food fight which you eagerly participated in. I remember you screaming the loudest on roller coasters and throwing up on one that went round and round. I remember every weekend of my childhood was spent performing in the family children's theater business in New York City. Before the shows, I would run around the block to the candy store or walk the 2.5 blocks to Woolworth's for their banana split special. David would spend his time getting in some kind of trouble that you didn't know about, except for the time he was caught in the balcony trying to gather enough spit to aim for a bold spot, seated below waiting for the show to start. We had no supervision. We just knew the rules: be dressed, made up, and in place on stage before the curtain rose. I remember you letting me sleep over at Jules' house in the late 1960s. I was only 11, but got my first real-life experience what it was like for African-American people living in the South Bronx. I was the only white face around, but I had a ball roller skating and going to a gospel church. It was amazing. I didn't feel different because you taught us to be colorblind, and I loved it. I remember you driving me and my friends to the high school dance and honking the horn and announcing to the boys, "Here they are, the prettiest girls are here," and we all freaked out. We ran out of the car and I knew they would never take another ride to the dance with you again. But I also had great comfort knowing that you did the exact same thing to David. I remember there was a boy in my 10th grade class who would shuffle his feet and walk with his head down. He never looked anyone in the eye. He was always by himself because he didn't have any friends. You confronted him one day and commanded him to show up at the drama club rehearsal after school. And you announced to all the kids that he was your new assistant, and everyone had to report to him first. The boy beamed and became a hit with all the drama kids. And you mentioned not long ago that he is now working in a New York theater for a stagehand union. You really made a difference in that kid's life. I remember seeing older teens in our home. Sometimes you would hire them as cleaning girls to help them out with money. Sometimes they had no place to go because they were thrown out or hurting in some other way. Our home was always open to whoever needed you. You helped so many kids, kids that needed a kind word, a helping hand, or a major boost in self-esteem. One day when I came home from college, I saw strange shoes and clothes in my room. Someone who needed a place to stay was sleeping in my room. I didn't care, because it is what it is. I saw this, and it registered with me. Your example taught me that compassion and kindness is just the right thing to do. I remember you asking me firmly to go out on a first date for 3 of David's teenage friends. You and David ran up the stairs to my room to make sure that I said yes when each one called. You were so concerned about their self-esteem. You wanted them to have a positive experience. I knew that, so I agreed. I hope David has stopped teasing them now. I remember when you bought the Fillmore East Rock Concert Hall and had all of mine and David's friends come in and paint the 1,000-plus seats. It was really cool, but nobody wanted to paint over the famous signatures in the dressing room. I remember in college when all my term papers flew out of my 3-ring binder on a really windy day. I called you up devastated, and you came to my rescue that night and rewrote all of my papers. You got straight A's. I also remember how you drove up to campus the day you were putting Candy, our dog, down. You let me say goodbye to her. I never forgot that. I remember the hundreds, maybe thousands of people who stopped me on the street when they found out I was your daughter. All of them had a story to tell me how you changed them or their kid's life. One particular lady hugged me and wouldn't let go. She started to cry, and when she calmed herself, told me how you saved her life. So many others are still stopping me to tell me stories about you. Even recent stories, because you are still giving of yourself even today. Well, now that I've reflected how wonderful my life is because of you, I'm hoping that you can grant me one more wish. Could you please sing Miss Logan? I loved it as a little girl, and it still brings me such joy when you perform it. Once again, thank you for being one of the world's best dads, not just to me, but for all the kids who needed you and still do. Love, Deb.
Debbie, you made me cry before I have to sing. Thanks. Dad had 2 trunk songs. Actors, a trunk song is a song that you can just pull out and sing at the spur of the moment. If somebody says, hey, who can sing a song? My dad went on cruise ships all the time. He would say, I would sing a song, I'll sing a song. And he always sang 2. One was, I'm in love with Miss Logan. Dad, this is for you. This song was originated in the show called New Faces in 1952, and it was sung by Robert Clary. Anybody remember who he was? He was LeBeau on Hogan's Heroes. And I think my dad did it better than him. So here we go. What's the matter with me? What's the matter with me? School is let out, and it's way after 3. But I'm sitting here with my chin on my knee. Say, what is the matter with me? I ought to go home, and I want to go home. But I know darn well I'm not gonna go home. 'Cause I'm sitting here with my chin on my knee. Say, what is the matter with me? What if the gang saw me sitting like this? They'd say I was waiting for some guile. So what if they saw me? They couldn't hear me. 'Cause I'm not waiting for any girl. Then what am I waiting here for? And why am I watching the door? I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love with Miss Logan. Like an angel from heaven above. That's Miss Logan. Though I still hate arithmetic, I'll do arithmetic long as Miss Logan is teaching arithmetic. I'm in love with Miss Logan, and I wish I was not. Miss Logan, you're the best teacher they have in this whole school. No, I mean it, you really are, Miss Logan, you're the best. I'd do anything for you, Miss Logan, anything. You want me to carry your books? I'll carry your books. You want me to clean the erasers? I'll slap them clean. I can wash the boards for you. I'd do anything for you, Miss Logan. I don't know if you heard, but the 5th grade class, we're having a dance on Friday, and I didn't have anybody to dance with, and I was what? You what? Miss Logan! La 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 la. Miss Logan! I didn't see you standing there. Miss Logan, what? No, music off, music off. I didn't see you standing there. No, me? I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just talking to myself. Well, who are you waiting for, Miss Logan? Your fiance? I didn't know you were getting married. Next week? Oh. That's nice, Miss Logan. What? I'm a funny kid? Yeah, I guess I am a funny kid. Goodbye, Miss Logan. I guess she's right. I am a funny kid. If there's one person I do not love, it's Miss Logan. If there's one person I'd like to shove, it's Miss Logan. She could talk to me, sing to me, hug me and cling to me. Candy could bring to me, won't be nothing to me. I don't love old Miss Logan, but I wish I was dead. That's Dad at 8 years old. 8 years old. Not for a very sad moment in our presentation. My mom, the love of Elliot's life, they were married for 62 years, suffers from Alzheimer's. And when my dad passed, we chose not to tell my mom because she wouldn't understand. And she's not even here today because it would be too hard on us and her. But I guess about a year ago, I was going through some of Dad's papers, and I found a letter that my mom wrote to Dad on her 71st birthday, and it really summed up their marriage. And this gives my mom her voice at this memorial service. And my nephew Rob is going to read it. Rob Taubenslag.
So my birthday gift to you on my birthday. So 'tis the end of my 71st year, a time to think about my life and the choices that I've made. The wisest choice that I ever made was to marry you, my husband of 51 years. You've made me very happy for more than half a century, and I'm grateful to you for that. When you asked me to marry you, you said I may not make you wealthy, but I promise you that my life, or that life with me, will not be boring. The first part of that statement proved to be untrue, and the second part has definitely been true. I can honestly say that I've never been bored. You have made my life an exciting adventure, one literally after the other. You took me to Europe only a few days after we were married, and I can still feel the excitement I felt then when we went inside the Colosseum and the catacombs. All the Latin books that I had studied in school had come to life for me. Then, less than 10 years later, we started to travel, and we have not stopped yet. You have literally shown me almost all of the Northern Hemisphere, most of Europe, Israel, much of the US, Canada, Alaska, Hawaii, China, Hong Kong, Mexico, some of Central America, and most of the Caribbean islands. Are there any that we have missed? And while we're still young enough to have the strength to travel, I would like very much to see more of the Orient and Australia. As for never being wealthy, we have far more than I ever dreamed of having. You are rich in other ways as well, or we are rich in other ways as well. You have always given me a home that I was happy and proud to live in. We have always had good friends. We raised 3 children as well, and because they all turned out to be good people. Sometimes you drive me crazy, but I will never forget that you truly are a good man. You speak no evil, you see no evil, and you think no evil. You see only the good traits in people. Many years ago, you said the city of Islin on Route 1 is not ugly, because the factories which give off smoke put people to work. Elliot, my love, I thank you for giving me a good life. I often wonder what makes me so content, and it's not because my husband is a very good provider who buys me everything that I want. I mean, you do, but that is not what makes me so content. We disagree about things, but we rarely argue or raise our voices in anger. You feel free to do what you enjoy doing, and I feel free to do what I enjoy doing. We do not feel that we need to be with one another for 24 hours a day, nor do we want to be. We are different in so many ways. You, type A, me, type B. You are right-brained, I am left-brained. I cannot do what you do, and you cannot do what I do. We respect and admire each other. Your storytelling and playwriting ability amazes me. You are the biggest fan of my paintings. I guess opposites can have a long and loving relationship. Though the world in turmoil, our love has made our life together peaceful and content. Thank you. Myrna Taubenslag.
Rob Taubenslag, the Wawa King. My sister asked a friend of ours, a great friend of ours, Carla Flitter-Falcone, to sing Papa, Can You Hear Me? And you're in for a treat. She's got a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful voice. Carla Flitter-Falcone. You don't want the chair, correct? You do want the chair?
It's funny, I came into Children's Theater in 1966, I think it was. So I was really little, very shy, always in the back. I don't think I ever really did a part until I was a teenager, and I remember one of the girls had heard me singing. I didn't even think I could sing. I really didn't find my voice until I was probably late in high school or even college. And one of the girls, Rosanna Shines, Elliot lost somebody to play dressmaker. And Rosanna said, Carla can sing. She can play it. Elliot goes, you sing? I was like, I guess. And so he gave me the part, and ever since then, I started doing lead roles, and I was working in the Jan House Playhouse in New York, and he just brought it all out in me, and I got the confidence to sing and perform, and So when I wanted to do a song, I wanted to pick a song that meant something to Debbie, because I know what her father meant to her. And when I told her what I wanted to sing, we both got chills. I got the chills, and we said, that's confirmation from Elliot. He wants you to sing this for Debbie, so I'm going to do this song. Our Heavenly Father, oh God, and my Father who is also in heaven, may the light of this flickering candle illuminate the night the way your Spirit illuminates my soul. Papa, can you hear me? Papa, can you see me? Papa, can you find me in the night? Papa, are you near me? Papa, can you hear me? Papa, can you help me not be frightened? Looking at the skies, I seem to see a million eyes. Which ones are yours? Where are you now that yesterday has waved goodbye and closed its doors? The night is so much darker, the wind is so much colder. The world I see is so much bigger now that I'm alone. Please forgive me, try to understand me. Papa, don't you know I had no choice? Can you hear me praying anything I'm saying, even though the night is filled with voices? I remember everything you taught me, every book I've ever read. All the words and all the books help me to face what lies ahead. The trees are so much taller, and I feel so much smaller. The moon's twice as lonely, and the stars are half as bright. Papa, how I love you, Papa. How I need you, Papa. How I miss you, kissing me.
People talk about your last words, what the parents say to each other. Is she okay? Perfect. My father's last words to me, God's honest truth, I'm not lying. We all took turns sitting with my dad the week he passed. And I have to say, my dad's passing was a really beautiful way to go. We brought in hospice, but we never used him. He was never in any pain. It was basically, the hourglass was just dripping and dripping and dripping, and that was it. And he went very, very peacefully. And Dad, you did well. Good job for you. I wish I go the same way. But my dad's last words were, I was sitting up with him. He was in bed, basically almost coma, but he wasn't comatose, laying in bed for about 3 hours. I was watching a movie. on TV, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, he's in bed like this, with his mouth open. And on TV, they took a commercial break, and it said, Nutrisystem, lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Nutrisystem, lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Michael, do that. That was my dad's last words. I've lost 11 pounds since his death, so Dad, I'm trying. I guess about 5, 6 years ago, I needed a new song for my show Beauty and the Beast that went on tour, and I wrote a song that Beauty sings to her papa before she goes to live with the Beast, and it's called Dad. And when I wrote it, I really wrote it about my dad, me saying goodbye to my dad. Because at that point, he wasn't doing well either. My dad had like 9 lives. Friends of ours, he just kept living and living and living, and he basically went on to the end. A PowerPoint presentation, Dad. Hi, Dad. When I wrote this song, I wrote it about you. You've been a wonderful father to me, and I want to thank you. Happy Father's Day. In my dad's eulogy, he spoke about his gifted grandson, Nicholas, his oldest grandson, being a wonderful writer. He is. He's crying, but we're all crying, Nick. Come on up. Elliott Taubenslag. Try it.
A letter to my grandfather. What can I say about the beautiful, loving, and selfless soul that is my grandfather? The late Elliott Taubenslag, that all of you haven't said already. In his youth, he acted out the funny papers in order to protect himself from getting beaten up. Without realizing it, he turned a challenge into an opportunity by putting on a show. And you had to be kind and be his friend in order to be in the play. Grandpa was an early father figure to me. I learned a lot about giving and helping others from him. I heard how he welcomed troubled teens into his home and counseled hundreds more. He was a grandfather to kids of all ages. Gramps was very generous with his time, energy, and acts of kindness, from donating regularly to St. Jude, and finally, his body to science. As his last selfless act showed me what a gifting soul he truly was. He showed us all what it really means to be here for a reason and not a season. He brought out the best in people and showed them how to be strong under any circumstance, including me. I admire, honor, and love you, Gramps, for the beautiful, unconditional, loving soul that you are. God bless you. And always remember the truth that once was spoken: to love another person is to see the face of God. Thank you.
Next, a great friend of mine, Kevin Getz, is going to sing. Kevin grew up in East Brunswick. A lot of times in my home, I was at his home, and he became, I guess, a third son to my father, Elliot. Kevin has gone on to Hollywood, and the New LA Times calls him the Dr. Phil of Hollywood. He's a huge, they really did. He's a big deal. Kevin Getz. Elliot likes you better than David.
Nick, wow, where's Nick? Nick, that was so beautiful, and your grandpa was so proud of you, and he would tell me that. Take a bow again, will you? Because that was so, yes. Oh, isn't it ironic that it's Tony night tonight? And it's Elliot, and it's Elliot's celebration of life. Wow, and Naomi, seeing Naomi Sunshine, who is the most extraordinary jazz singer, one of the most extraordinary I've ever heard, actually, and stylist, the most. Don't press your luck, Naomi. I love you so much, and I wish Dolly Vasta could have been here, and others from our past. You know, I wanted to be on Broadway the moment I got onto Elliot's stage. He said, "Where do you want to be?" All the kids were 100 kids on here, and I went, here. From that point, I wanted to be on Broadway. And every year I'd say, "El, I'm going to Broadway." He said, "You're not ready. You're not ready." I said, "What do you mean you're not ready? What do you mean you're not ready? Got to study more, got to study more, got to do more, blah, blah, blah." And so when I was about 14 or 15, Elliot wrote the note to Barbara Jarrett, who was my manager, to Dolly Vasta had worked there. Do you remember, Naomi? She worked for Barbara. And it said, "This is introduce Kevin Getz, who blah, 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 blah." Anyway, she took me, much to my parents' chagrin. Not my dad, who's sitting here, but my mother, sort of, who signed the agreement because I was a minor, sort of wrote it up the page at 6 in the morning. "All right, you're ready," because I nagged her so much. I just wanted to be on Broadway. And, you know, I didn't even want to go to college. And I ended up going to college, ironically, with my best friend, Mike, from high school. We both got into here, Mason Gross, School of the Arts, which was a very difficult school to get into. Joe Brunetti, the third of our three musketeers, joined us as well. Kid, don't upstage me, will you, please? No, that's not okay. You'll have your turn. You'll have your turn. So college is coming, and I didn't even want to go. I wanted to go right to New York. And Elliot said, "No, you're not ready." I said, "Elliot, you just gave me the lead in the senior production, Cabaret." I'm like, you know, you keep giving me all this great advice. And so he said to me, "Go to school." I auditioned, we get in, Mike and I are in, and now it's the end of the year. And he says, "Come here." And he hands me a little box. I open it up with a card, and it's a key. It's a gold key. Here it is. And it said, "Congratulations. This is your key to success. You're ready." To hear that from your mentor, you know, is so important, so meaningful. You know, people don't get mentors, don't have mentors so much anymore. Well, he was one of mine. I love you so much, Elliot. You made my life so much better with your belief in me. You made all of the people in this room's lives so much better because of who you are. You made the world a beautiful and wonderful place. Guys, can you all hold hands or something, or put your arm around the person next to you? I know sometimes when you're in church or temple, you go, "Oh God, they're doing that," but let's feel it. Let's feel it, please. And Elliot would not want us to be sad, but you know what? He'd say, "No." And Myrna would say, "Yeah." He'd want us to be happy. But it's hard, Elliot, it's hard. Smile, though your heart is breaking. Smile, even though it's aching. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. When you smile through your fear and sorrow, I smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll find that the sun will come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness. Hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile and maybe you'll not cry. You'll find that life is still worthwhile, because you really touched so many, embraced and inspired anybody who came up on the stage. They got the sage. I rejoice in the light that you gave. I'll forever be brave. You gave the key for me to be so free. I I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? You know what they're really saying is, I love you. I hear babies cry. Oh, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, Elliot, you made this such a wonderful world. It's Kia and Ty. Kia and Ty. Kia flew in with me from California. Thank you.
Beth Ann, are you out there? In 1986, was it the year 1986 How I Survived High School premiered? Okay. My dad asked his students in 1986, what's on your mind? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel bad? What are you nervous about? What are you going through? And he basically took all their problems and emotions and put them into a play called How I Survived High School. I saw the show, and it had about, I guess, 100 kids in the show, and it blew me away. It was fantastic. And I said, Dad, can I try the show out in New York with a cast of 6? And we ran it. Glenn Slater, who did the music and lyrics, went on to a huge success. Hopefully he'll be here. Are you here, Glenn? Yay! Glenn's here. He did the music and lyrics, and that show opened up in New York, and it ran. And then I toured with it to high schools all over the tri-state area for 10 years. One of the monologues that my dad wrote, he was great with kids shows, but he also wanted to, write other shows as well. My dad wrote shows about hookers. 2 shows about hookers, actually. One called Millions of Miles and one called Scarlet Lullaby. But he also wrote this show, How I Survived High School. And my son is going to do a monologue called I'm Leaving that really is about the teachers. And this was a monologue geared towards teachers, not just students. And you'll see why. My son, Elliott Taubenslag.
Excuse me, Mrs. Sherman? When I passed by your door, I saw you were grading papers. And then everyone always says that you're the hardest working teacher they got here. Always grading papers. Yeah, well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. It looks like a big pile of papers. I want to let you know that I'm leaving. I can't pass anyway, so I figure I may as well just leave. Guess I made things a little easier on you. I didn't hand in too many papers. Yeah, well, anyway, I want to say goodbye. And I gotta ask you a question. How come you never asked me? How come you never asked me why? Why was I never getting my work done? Why was I always so tired? Why was I always falling asleep in your class? I mean, I know it's not your job, you're supposed to correct my papers, but you never even asked me. If I was a teacher and I had a student falling asleep flunking out of my class, I'd want to know why. Look at me, Mrs. Sherman. I'm not a wise ass or a dirtbag. I mind my own business. I don't even take drugs. Didn't you ever wonder? Or did you just make up your mind about me? The only thing dirty about me is my hands. Look at them. Oil, grease. It's in my skin under my nails. What you don't know about me is that I work. I have to work. In a garage, one of those all-night stands. I put in about 50 hours a week. That's why I fell asleep in your class. Because I was tired. And some nights I'd work until 3 or 4 in the morning. And then I'd have to haul my ass in here every day by 8. And maybe you don't think so, but I tried. I really wanted that diploma. Look, I don't want you to think that I'm blaming you because I failed. I know it's my fault. What sucks is that I tried so freaking hard and you don't even care! And there are a lot of teachers in the school who would care and I had to get you! You know, I saw this movie on TV a few weeks ago about a girl who's in school and her teacher dies and she sings, "I felt nothing." Well, that's not going to be me. If I ever hear that you died, I'm going to feel something, all right? I'm going to feel glad that one lousy teacher who never cared about anybody is dead. Goodbye, Mrs. Sherman. I'm leaving.
Dad really cared about students, and he would get into arguments with other teachers, say, why don't you retire? You know, if you don't care, just retire. Who had him as a teacher? Show of hands. I did. I got all A's. Next is Karen Burke, if I'm correct. Is that, yes, Karen Burke. Karen Burke ran, she was Elliot's boss for many years at, David, help her up, at the East Brunswick Recreation Department. And here we go, Karen Burke, head of recreation. So if you went to summer theater, you owe it to her.
I can remember when I would have come up the stairs 2 at a time. Pretty hard to do today. Anyway, Michael, if it's okay with you, I'm going to digress a little bit of what I showed you. So, and if it's not okay, it's all right anyway. Thanks. Elliott Mr. T. Taubenslag. How do you say his name? Taubenslag? Everybody would have a different pronunciation. So guess how he got his name? Mr. T was just easier than saying Taubenslag. Elliott was the master, a total master of giving to others. He was always doing things without wanting any recognition or notoriety. Having worked very closely with him for 35 years, he and I became a team. We wanted to make sure that we always did what was best for the children's theater program and for the thousands, not hundreds, thousands of children and young adults that came through that program. Remember, he did that for 50 years. He can hear you clap up there, you know. You can say something about 50 years. East Brunswick Township was very blessed to have the Taubenslag family. It wasn't just Elliot, it was Michael too, and Debbie, and Bob, the whole family, Myrna, and I was fortunate to know them before we worked together. But Eileen Schremm, who was the boss, my boss at East Brunswick then, I came on board and she said, in May of 1976, and she said, we have all these programs going on and you're going to be in charge of the children's theater. And I said, I'm not theatrical. You want me to work with Elliot? I know Elliot. She said, you'll be perfect together. So Elliot would come in every week, and he would be with Nikki, and Nikki was small. Nikki was my best helper, right, Nick? He was. And he would come in with his bags of quarters from Lawrence Brook School, from Chittick School, from all the schools in there, and he would complain every single week about the damn money counting. So after the end of the program, I said to him, Elliot, what would be your dream come true if we could make a change for the program? Oh, you're not changing my program. He said, you're not changing my program. I said, no, I think it might be a good change. Well, what are you talking about? I said, well, you've been a yenta about the money every single week. And he said to me, you're not Jewish. You're not supposed to use that word. And I said, Elliot, what if he didn't have to count money anymore? And you know that other person that you kept on asking me for all year? You won't have to count money anymore. And that person that was responsible for doing the counting of the money is going to be your assistant. I have to tell you, and Michael, Nikki rather, I hope that you remember this day, because Elliot went screaming through my whole office, I don't have to get money anymore, and I have a person. And he was jumping just like our stars over here before, because it really made a difference in what he had to do. My other favorite story about Elliot was, I would go to him and say, Elliot, one of my camp directors is really having a problem with a kid. It could have been a he or a she, and it was many times. I said, he or she are very, being a big nuisance at the school, out of control, not in good conduct, and I just can't have them there. Without hesitation, and I will tell you that we did this many, many, many times. Elliot would say to me, switch them over to my program, tell them they start tomorrow. That was Elliot, because he cared about the kid. More often than not, that kid found their way in a way to find a place to shine. And that kid began to fit in. He and she needed to know that they belonged. So you would say, why did Elliot do that all the time? I think the answer is really quite simple. Mr. T took the time to light the fire within that child or young adult. He helped build their self-confidence and self-esteem, as well as having them negative energy turn into positive energy. And they would be within the rights of the plays. They would get into it. And while they did that, they were building new and positive friendships. This helped them reach their own potential. Another digression, I'm going to include Michael on this. I forget the year, Michael, but Elliot was very sick down in Florida. And I found out about it. I already had a full roster and a waiting list for children's theater. Then I found out from East Brunswick High School that they were renovating the high school auditorium. By the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but Elliot was the person responsible for the entire East Brunswick High School auditorium. He's the one that designed it, put in all his pressure, all the ideas. So I don't know if you know that or not, but he was an amazing amazing man. So the reason why I said why, it was because he wanted to light that fire. And many of those same kids that were problem kids became stars, were just part of the group, or made new friendships. I'm proud to say that many of those problem young people went on to become wonderful, productive citizens, both on and off Broadway and around our country. And it makes us all feel just a little bit, we had a little bit to do with that. I knew Elliot before we worked together. I worked with him for 35 years. Before I retired, he still kept on going. I admired his relationship with his wife, Myrna. She was his staunch supporter, not only of his work at the high school as a teacher, but as director of the Children's Theater program for East Brunswick Township. I'm not sure you know this or not, but if you don't be surprised, because Elliot received the most prestigious award from the National Recreation Parks Association for being the best children's theater program in the entire United States. In addition to that, in his local endeavors, he did many. He also produced, co-produced on and off Broadway shows. You know, I really feel blessed to know Elliot. I'm proud that he was my friend. He was a unique individual, caring, loving, kind. Will I miss him? You bet I do. But he always left you with something, and that was to keep on going in life. And that's what we hang on to each day. The joy, the laughter, the fun, sometimes even the tears. But it was part of life. Oh, by the way, did you know that Elliot, when he got up to the pearly gates, he said, "Your name, please," and he said, "Elliott Taubenslag." They looked down the list. "I'm sorry, I guess you're not coming up here. Your name's not on the list." He said, "My name's not on the list? You gotta be kidding me. My name's not on the list?" He said, "No. Mr. T is on." "Oh, Mr. T, come on in." Thanks, Elliot.
I have the honor of following in my dad's footsteps. I have a camp which is now running in its 29th year, and Dad and I would always, have competitions. He would see my shows, I would see his shows. He said, "What'd you think of my show?" "Mediocre, Dad." And I'd say, "What'd you think of mine?" "Adequate." That was a running joke between us. But the best thing that I do for a living, and I realized this about maybe 5 years ago, I'm following my dad's legacy. I'm keeping it alive. So. The day he passed and the week he passed, on Facebook and cards coming in, my family received over 1,000 letters, paragraphs, not just little lines, "Oh, sorry, condolences." No, really big letters about his passing and what he meant to them and everybody around the world. We have people here from Cyprus, people here from California. Jim Vallely, he's sitting up there. He's one of the head writers, I think an Emmy Award winner for Rest and Development. Thank you for coming. Kevin came from California. But we received one letter from Sally Vasta, Dolly Vasta's daughter, that summed up my dad more than anything. It said, a fraction of the letter said, "There was always room in the marketplace for one more child." And that was true. Right now, can we have the house lights? Anybody who ever performed in the show Cinderella, sung the marketplace, feel free to come on up. Anybody who wants to sing it? Guys who've entertained today, let's sing. Anybody who wants to come up? Carly, get your ass up here. I have props. No, you can leave it. Yeah, we'll do it at the end. We have flowers. Here, Nick. Here, Deb. We have pies. Here we go. My brother David, get your butt up here. Who wants flowers? Who wants flowers?
I never sang this song. I was always on stage.
You're right. Well, you're on stage now. We never sold snow cones, but it's okay. Take a prop. Take a prop. Here's a prop for you. Pass them out. Pass them out. Who needs a prop? You can sell a drumstick. Apples, oranges. Whatever this is, Jeff. A cone.
Oh, a cone.
Chinese. Oh, Joshua.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. Tradition of Elliot. We don't rehearse a lot. We just do it. Wing it, wing it, wing it. Try your best. Here we go. Nice and loud. Also, we have a singer singing it for cheating. Here we go. Here we go. Hit it. Walk around, guys. You're at the marketplace. Hey. Naomi Sunshine has been like basically a second mother to my brother, my sister, and I would like $10 if I can.
Oh my.
Naomi sang with Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole. Who else?
Billie Holiday.
Billie Holiday.
Bing Crosby.
Bing Crosby.
This is not about me. So come on.
She slept with all of them.
Yes.
Naomi, can I tell how you met, or are you going to talk how you met?
I'm going to talk about
it. Okay. The wonderful Naomi Sunshine.
Oh, please. Okay.
Naomi is
93. Going to be
3 years old. And you're going to be blown away by her grace.
Oh, my God. Were you talking about the same person here today? Because I got to tell you, the guy drove me crazy. We went through 60 years of friendship. Elliot was not only my friend,
He was my brother. You know, I don't say like a brother. He was the brother I never had. He was an unbelievable person. It was actually, it could have been to the day, 60 years ago in June, that we met. I'm not going to go through every month, don't worry. We had just moved to East Brunswick, and I was looking for something to do of entertainment, to do something out of the house, and I saw an ad for somebody who was putting together a show. And I said, hey, that sounds interesting. I'll call the number that's in the paper. I called, of course, Elliot answered, and I told him who I was and that we had just moved and it sounded interesting. He gave me every detail about the show that he was putting on, and told me the name of the show, when it was going to be, the date it was going to be done, and the dates of every rehearsal. And I listened, and when he was all finished, I said, well, I can make all the rehearsal dates, but I can't make the show. I'm going to be busy that day. There was a silence. And then he said, well, it was nice talking to you. And that was that. I hear later on, and down the years, I've heard from Elliot many times. When he got off the phone, he said to Myrna, I just got off the phone with some nut who calls herself Sunshine, who could make every rehearsal, but she can't make the show. Did you ever? Well, I thought anyway, I wanted to see what it was like. So I came and showed up to a couple of rehearsals. And I see this weird guy up on the stage, running around. He was like a flea. He would be in one spot for a second, then he'd be in another spot, and he'd be on the other side of the stage. And he was unbelievable. And I couldn't understand half of what he was saying, because he had what we call the Elliott. Am I right? Remember? It was it became the Elliott Abadabba. He thought he could sing, which of course I disagreed with him. And Michael always said, we're going to put out an album called Elliott Taubenslag Yells the Blues. But he was amazing. I have to give it to him. He helped people. He changed so many lives. There's a story that has probably become like a myth now, but for those of you who don't know it, it's very brief. There was one kid who was about 10. He was in the children's theater, and the kid had a great voice. And Elliot gave him a solo to do. And the kid started to sing during the show. Everybody was on stage. He came forward, and he started to sing his solo. And suddenly, seeing the audience, he got stage fright. He stopped. And then he burst into tears and ran off the stage. Well, needless to say, there was an awkward moment, but the show continued. About 5 minutes later, the kid came back on stage with Elliot, with his arm around him, and they walked to the center of the stage, and Elliot said, we're going to do this song together. I was there, and this is the way I remember it. Maybe it's not the way you may remember it. This is what I remember. Elliot put his arm around him and said, we're going to do this together. And they started to sing. Gradually, Elliot stopped, thank God, and backed away from him slowly, and the kid finished the song to absolute tumultuous applause. And I think not only did he save this kid's life, but I think he saved him thousands of dollars in therapy for the rest of his life. And he did that for so many people. When we were in Florida, he would take people, he moved to Florida, and we lived in the same condominium. And he started doing shows there. He was the life and breath of this condo. Everybody loved him. They miss him. When he moved away, which is about 5-6 years ago, people have never stopped talking about him, what he did, his character, his personality. He was constantly behind any little effort that I was making in life. He was there for me in so many different ways. When I started to write music, I was really very timid about it. But Elliot would listen, and he loved it, everything I did, and he would encourage me. At this time, do you remember Elliot wearing those horrible wigs that he would wear? These are toupes. He would wear these gray toupes and we wouldn't even grace it with the word toupee, but it was a toupe. Anyway, at the time he'd say to me, you must promise me you will never stop writing. And I've kept my promise, but I said to him, I will do that, Elliot, if you will take off those dead squirrels. Anyway, he started doing dinner theater in Florida. He had a little troupe of some professionals, a few non-professionals, semi-professionals, and we would go from place to place. It was about 10 of us, and we would go from place to place, and for several weeks at a time, we would do a dinner theater. There was one place we did, the Cinema Cafe. Remember, Michael? And this guy had a place where there were several little theaters where you'd see different movies. And in the movie, you would sit at a table, and you'd be served your food and drink, snacks and drinks. And on Saturday nights, we would do our dinner theater. And we had more fun. I could tell you so many stories. However, well, I will tell you one very short. Anyway, there was no room to change costumes. So Elliot and I managed to find a place right near the kitchen where it was a little closet, and Elliot and I would change our costumes very quickly there. We were so used to seeing each other in our underwear that we didn't mind, and it didn't even bother us anymore. And one night we were in that little closet. It was actually a pantry, a tiny pantry that had shelves with pots and pans lined all over it. And every time we'd move our elbow, a pan or a pot would fall on the floor and clatter to the tile floor. And one night, one of the kitchen guys came by and said, "What are you guys doing in there?" And Elliot just says, "We're cooking." It's a true story. Anyway, where was I? Anyway, we had more fun. One night we get a call from the owner of the theater that his entire staff had gone on strike. Nobody showed up, and the guy is desperate. Elliot says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." And Elliot volunteered our entire cast to come and be his staff for the evening. When we get there, everybody was given a job. Myrna, God bless her, was made a waitress for the evening. And she had to go in and out of these darkened little rooms with trays of food and large drinks that she could barely carry. And watching her stumble around in the dark was pee in your pants funny. I was given the job at the box office. Elliot shoved me into the box office and said, "You are selling tickets." And there were people lined up to get into the theater. There were like 5 different movies playing. I had to be able to tell them what it was about. I couldn't remember. I never saw any of the movies. And I also had to know what movie went with what color ticket. And I had to take money and make change, which was not my forte. Anyway, I noticed that as each person came up to the window, they were yelling at me. Every single one was yelling at me, yelling. I said, "What the hell is going on here?" I was so rattled, I was ready to close the window and go home. Suddenly, I take another look, and there's Elliot, standing at the side of the line, saying to each person, "When you get up to the window, you have to speak very, very loud because my mother is hard of hearing." Is it any wonder I thought that if I didn't kill him that night? But this is what we did to each other for 60 long years. Anyway, I will end with telling you this and saying, Elliot wrote a play called Millions of Miles. It was his baby. He worked on it for years. It was done in this way, and in that way, and in this little theater, and that little theater. And I didn't realize really how good it was until I saw him do it. We got a professional cast that did it in a beautiful theater in Boynton Beach, if I'm not mistaken. And in the show, Elliot more or less commissioned me to write the title song, which was Millions of Miles. In the show, there's a record playing that I made the recording of it, and this song embodies Elliott's philosophy, which was no matter what comes along, we'll face it together and we'll continue on and we'll make our way. I want to do that for you now, if you'll indulge me. Is this on? No.
Here. Here, not even here.
But I need it on this side.
Give it on both.
Oh, thank you. See, he's producing. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello? Okay. We're good. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. We've got a long, long way to go, millions of miles, no piece of cake, this road that we take, millions of miles, who knows where we'll head, we'll stumble a bit, but we've made our bed, we're ready to lie in it. And if it's bumpy on the way, what do we care? It's worth all the pain, dodging the rain. We'll hold our old umbrella like we're floating on air. We'll block out the chill, discover the thrill of simply daring to live life caring, sharing those millions of miles. And if along our merry way we take a spill, we'll pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, never let them think you might be over the hill. There's much we don't know, we'll learn as we go. We'll keep on daring to live life caring, sharing those millions of miles.
Hold on, give me a hug, give me a hug. Here you go. There you go. Millions of Miles was a show that Elliot wrote about a hooker. And a really good show about a hooker. And I guess about 30 years ago, it starred Kay Medford, who on Broadway was Barbara Streisand's mother in Funny Girl and Dick Van Dyke's mother in Bye Bye Birdie. And then years later, it was going to star Rue McClanahan. And the day before it was supposed to open, she found out she had breast cancer, and the show just never went anywhere. But it's definitely one of the best things he ever wrote. And hopefully one day, Kevin and I will produce it. Yes? Yes, all right. Elliot was the founder of Playhouse 22 in East Brunswick. Adam, come on up. Adam has been with Playhouse 22 for 27 years. Adam Neary.
It's really tough speaking after Naomi. I can tell you that. Fortunately, I can't sing nor dance, so I'm just going to stick to my remarks. Fish and snails, move your tails to the greatest ball you'll ever see. Those were the first summer theater lyrics I learned 28 years ago this July. I can't tell you what I had for lunch yesterday, nor what socks, some color socks I'm wearing now, but I can remember those lyrics from 1990. I've been thinking about what to say for weeks, and it keeps coming back to these few lyrics. And I realized it wasn't these lyrics that were so memorable, but it was the experience of my first summer theater show that remains so memorable to this day. It was the first time that I was introduced to a man that showed us the passion that he had for creating arts and setting your own path. I wasn't much of a theater person before meeting Elliot and being part of summer theater. I couldn't and still can't hold a tune. My acting skills are best described as a series of pratfalls, and my dancing is, well, limited. However, it didn't matter for Elliot. He just simply wanted to do your best and have fun doing it. Later that summer, after 4 or 5 weeks of summer theater boot camp, as I called it, Elliot cast me as Omar, the inept prince in Aladdin. With minimal experience, Elliot, in his always infinite wisdom, found something in me to play this part. I clearly remember that after a few rehearsals, he pulled me off to the side of the stage and told me that I wasn't doing the part right. He said to me, "Be so annoying that even you annoy your mother." With some help from others that are here today, I found a very high nasally voice, Urkel from Family Matters, a pair of thick glasses, and the most interesting costume ever created, the infamous Judy Jetson dress. I took another shot. He gave out a great laugh when I walked on stage and told me even be more annoying. So I did. "More!" he yelled from the darkened auditorium, and I tried and tried. The other kids were laughing, I thought at me at first, but my confidence was shaken, but I kept on trying and trying, knowing that Elliot was out there. Suddenly, he stopped the rehearsal right in the middle of the scene. I was horrified. Did I go too far? Was I being fired from my first role? Did I look so ridiculous in this Judy Jetson dress? So he pulled me off to the stage and said, "Perfect, you're natural at this." At that point, I could say I was officially part of the world of summer theater. Over time, Elliot and I became friends and ultimately spent 4 long summers as his stage manager and right hand, and learned so much about putting on a show with limited resources and a bank full of creativity. His style of direction was less about the blocking or hitting that note, but more about letting participants know to find their inner skills and just let it flow, like he did with me in Aladdin. Just have fun and put on a show. I knew that there were moments when he was frustrated from the performances on stage and if the costume didn't work, but Elliot patiently and with authority found his way to make it work. And now, many years later, I find myself using those same skills as executive producer of Playhouse 22. Months after my first summer theater show in 1990, I found myself trying out for Howard Svite High School, another Elliot enterprise directed by his son Michael. I auditioned by singing Happy Birthday and told Michael that I simply just wanted to get involved with the Playhouse. He cast me in the ensemble and I found a new home. Over the past 27 years, Playhouse 22 has become my second home. I've made many friends that are here today, and I thank Elliot for that. We have grown involved as a theater, from duct tape to gaff tape, and moved into a new place 10 years ago. And it was because of Elliot's influence that Playhouse 22 still survives today. Right now, as we speak, we're in the middle of Act 2 of our production of Big Fish. And it's because of these skills that Elliot taught us about a show must go on that is what is part of our credo at the Playhouse. He is truly one of our founding fathers. While as a theater troupe we have moved and new people have come and gone, but the mission of providing a home for letting creative people be creative and putting on a show is very much part of the theater. We want to make sure that the legacy that Elliot left for us will be part of this theater. The Community of Players is now celebrating its 60th anniversary. And over those years, we have staged thousands of productions, entertained many, many, many more, I would say probably over 1 million people. It's because of Elliot. And because of this, the Playhouse 22 and the Board of Directors would like to show our support in remembering his legacy. Today, we are officially announcing that working with the Township, we are naming the theater at the Community Arts Center after Elliott Taubenslag, and we call it the Elliott Taubenslag Theater. An official naming ceremony will take place later this year, and a plaque will be placed at the entrance of the theater, letting everyone know what Elliott's legacy left to all of us. He was not only one of the most important people in my life, but in the lives of many, many more, as you can see today. He was a mentor, a leader, a teacher, and a friend. And moreover, his role in creating a prosperous arts community in East Brunswick will never be forgotten. To the Taubenslag family, thank you for sharing Elliot with us. Thank you for letting us share his creative spirit with us, and thank you for letting him be part of our lives. Simply look around the room today and see what Elliot's influence, long influence and mentorship has meant to many, many people. Thank you.
What Adam neglected to tell you was that the third toilet on the left will be named after Naomi Sunshine. The second toilet on the left. There's another monologue from the show, How I Survived High School, which needs no introduction. I'll just announce Ian Nemser.
I've come to the conclusion that there's nothing wrong with me. You know, I just read a survey that proves that most teenagers are just like me. So I admit it. I'm horny. You know, I think I was born horny. You know, as a little kid, my grandmother lived with us, and she was always dragging me to this preacher who thought that if you enjoyed something, it was sin. Didn't make a difference what it was. If it was good, it was sinful. He used his Bible like somebody else would use a machine gun. Mow it down! You know, he had this one big thing about sex. He said that's what was making us all go straight to the devil. You know, he said that's what all us young people were thinking about. I was so young, I didn't think he was talking about me, because I didn't even know what he was talking about. Yet everyone around me was clapping and screaming and going, I confess, I'm a sinner, I do it. And everyone else was screaming, amen and hallelujah, clapping their hands, and I wanted to yell something too. Then the preacher yelled right at me, and which one of you young people spend your time playing with yourselves? Well, now I knew he was calling to me. Because we had this swing set out back, and when my brother wasn't home, I'd be in the backyard playing on that swing all by myself. So I just yelled real loud, as hard as I could, I confess, I do it! And nobody was clapping. And everybody got really quiet and was staring at me. And then the preacher said, and how old are you, child? 8? And how long you been playing with yourself? Well, now I was the center of attention, and I loved it, so I just smiled and said, a long time! And then all hell broke loose. The preacher started moaning and groaning like he was in pain, saying, oh, Lord, we need to save this child. We need to help him from falling into the pit. Please pray for this child. And everyone was singing and clapping, and the preacher was pointing right at me going, do you want to go blind, son? Do you want hair to grow out the palm of your hands? You best pray to the Lord that you will change your ways. And I don't want none of that stuff to happen to me, so I swore, no, I won't do it anymore. I promise, I promise. And I just thought to myself, man, I'm never going near that swing again. When I was about 12 or 13 later on, I knew what he was talking about. I found out. And you know, like I said, I'm like most teenagers. And that preacher was a smart man, but I gotta say, I ain't blind yet.
Written by my dad, Elliott Taubenslag. Jeff Winston, who is the head of the Arts Council of East Brunswick, would like to say some words also. I grew up with Elliott. Jeff grew up in my dad's shows in the high school and summer theater, and Jeff Winston.
Well, I have 5 children. They taught me to work from the iPhone, and that's actually been working out pretty poorly, so let's give it a try here and see if we can improve that. Elliot. I've known Michael and Elliot for a long time, and everybody got up here and talked about his theater and theater contributions. I knew Kevin. Hi, Kevin. It's the first time I've seen you in Kevin's years. Yes, that would be a lot. And there's another side to Elliot that I wanted to talk about, because I knew theater would be covered very thoroughly. I guess I met Michael in 3rd grade, and Mike invited me to his birthday party. And I had known a little bit about Michael's background at that point because Michael made sure that everybody knew who Michael was. With that, we went to Michael's house for the birthday party. And of course, with the theater background, I expected a lot of theatrical things. So as the kids gathered, we loaded in the most frightening blue van that Elliot drove around for many, many years. That today, actually, he'd probably be stopped at every corner, like a kidnap van. Had no windows, no seats, chains, there were ropes. And Elliot took us to a very rewarding experience. It changed our lives, to the Ford factory. Yeah, that was not the theater that we expected. In addition to that, they had a trailer, lack of a better word, in outside of Atlantic City, and the trailer was like the van. Actually, it was the same color. It was a bluish, and it was a frightening year. Michael and I were 15. Foreigners Feel Like the First Time was playing on the radio, on the jukebox every single day. And this type of trailer park, rightfully named, Michael and I would roam looking for a girl, which we would lower the bar, that she'd have to have her own teeth, she had a shower lease. It was a horrible place. And Elliot said one day, I loved it, but it was that. And Elliot said one day, let's go to the vineyard and pick grapes, and we'll make something with them. So Elliot loaded us into the blue van, and we went to a vineyard, got a bunch of grapes, probably illegally looking back, and loaded up a big bucket of grapes, and came back to the trailer, and we mashed them and made what Elliot called grape juice. And we drank it, and how long, Mike? About 2.5 days of diarrhea? I mean, it was special. I think Debbie was down there. She did. Debbie, I think, just had a baby, didn't drink the juice, which was good. So that's a couple of non-theatrical stories. Elliot, I walked in Elliott's Children's Theater at 9 years old. I stared at my shoes more than I stared at people's eyes. I was a shy kid, and I don't think Elliot knew I was there for the first year or two. I went at Michael's urging, saying, go do that. And then Elliot, around age 11, randomly picked me to play William the Rhymer or something, where I learned I like to rhyme. Mountaineers like to climb, criminals like to crime, but I like to rhyme. And I have 5 kids, and I can't name them, but I could tell you that I could tell you what I did when I was 10, and that's what Elliot did. He would take a kid that you would never expect and push them right to the front and let them know that they can do it, and that's what he told me. And I enjoyed theater. I did a lot of shows with Kevin throughout the years, and Michael. I saw Sandy Sussman, Sandy Udell, people in the audience. And then in high school, this is to show how forward-thinking Elliot was. 1980, Bucks County Playhouse. Elliot had written a show that he handed over to Joe Simon, who's in the back over there, a student director, and this was a show called Will the Real Superman Please Stand Up? And what that show was about, keep in mind it's 1980, and we live, of course, in 2018, that this play approached the taboos of bullying, homosexuality, school shootings, acceptance, anger, denial, and that was 1980. So unless he read some sort of crystal ball and knew all of the things that were going to go on in the 2000s, it was pretty incredible. And Joe Simon took that show, we took it down to Bucks County, and it was an incredible experience, and I was able to play the part that Elliot had written of the crazy, deranged kid. Elliot said it was typecasting, and I said it's fine, and that's what we did. And that was Elliot, that's what he did. Elliot had an organized chaos and an ability to take people out of their shell and to create them into something better than they were, and you felt good doing it. And that was Elliot. So I've told you about the grapes, I've told you about that, I've told you about the Ford plan. So I'm president of the Arts Commission. Kathy Spadafino, my vice president in the back, who was also my chorus teacher in high school, and both she and Elliot were extremely patient with our generation, and we did the very best we could to not make their jobs any more difficult. Elliot started teaching at East Brunswick High School the same year as my father did, and opened the high school in 1957. Elliot had done the theater, and I was very pleased to show how many places Elliot touched, that when I presented to the Township Council that, along with Adam Neary, that we would like to rename the theater, the meeting stopped so everybody could tell what part they played in some Elliot show at some point or another. So that will live forever on the East Brunswick logs. So with that said, to the Taubenslag family, I know everybody else has said it, but thank you for sharing it. I still hear him yelling, "Stop!" all the time. Sometime in the 70s, somebody gave him a megaphone. That was bad. That was bad. He shouldn't have a megaphone, nor should you, Michael. And it was that special. So there was a proclamation that's been drawn up that will be read at the presentation. I've seen the signs, the Elliott Taubenslag Theater. I tried to get done a couple of years ago, but they said no because he was still alive. That's his fault. So, but he's fixed that now. So the theater is ready for his name, his plaque. To the Taubenslags, thank you. Elliot, God bless you, and bless everybody for having him in your life.
Earlier I said that my dad had 2 trunk songs. I'm in love with Miss Logan, but my favorite was Please No Squeeze the Bananas. How many people heard it before? Naomi, how many times have you heard this song? Thank you for paying attention, Naomi. Are you awake? Yes. The song is a Louis Prima song, and my dad basically sang the song in our living room at my brother's wedding. And it was always my favorite song that he always did. So I'm going to try doing it now. I hope I remember the lyrics. It's the first time I've ever done it in public. Here we go. Let me take some water first. I'm ready when you are. Riley the cop would always stop at the corner of Tony's fruit stand. He'd help himself to anything on which he could lay his hand. Riley did this quite often. Plenty of fruit he would soften, till Tony got sore and inwardly swore. Then he began to shout, "Hey, please do not squeeze the bananas." 'Cause when you do it at that, then you make it the flat. Hey, please do not squeeze the bananas. 'Cause when you touch the plum, you smush it acting like a bum. You touch this, you touch that, you touch everything. You push this, you push that, you're never buying that thing. Hey, please do not squeeze the bananas. Officer, please, if you squeeze it a coconut, but please do not squeeze the bananas. 'Cause when you push the grape, you smush it out of the shape. You touch this, you touch that, you flatten out the fig. You eat this, you eat that, you're just like a pig. Hey, please do not squeeze the bananas. Officer, please, if you squeeze it a coconut, but please do not squeeze the bananas. 'Cause when you make it the reach, you smush it up in the peach. You touch this, you touch that, you break him up in my stand. If you touch it one more thing, I'll smash up your hand. Hey, please do not squeeze the bananas. Officer, please, if you squeeze it a coconut. Hey, squeeze it a watermelon. Hey, squeeze it a honeydew. Hey, I don't care what you do, just a please. And no, squeeze the bananas. Hello to everybody. Hold on. Hello. My name is Tony Gucciano, and this is my fruit stand. You liking the fruit? You liking the fruit? Hey, this is audience participation. You liking the fruit? Yeah. All right, I got lots of fruit here. I got a watermelon, a peaches, a plums, a apples, and oranges. You know what I also got there? I got a problem, a bigger problem. And you know what the problem is? His name is Riley the cop. He come by here every day. He come, oh, let me see this. Oh, let me see this. Oh, plums, peaches, oh, bananas. And he mess up at my stand. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Will you help me? Will you help me? I can't hear you. Will you help me? A little louder. What are you yelling at me for? All right, here's what we do. When Riley the cop come here, we're all gonna duck, hide in our seats. And when he makes the reach, you yell as loud as you can. Hey, Riley the Copper, you stop. Let's try it. Riley the Copper, you stop. Go. That's the best you could do? Hey, come on, this is for my papa, papa. One more time, here we go, and. That's a go. He's coming, he's coming. Hurry, duck. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Hit it! Those are good. Hey, police are not squeezing the bananas. Officer, please, if you were squeezing a coconut. Hey, squeezing a watermelon. Hey, squeezing a cantaloupe. Hey, squeezing a pineapple. Hey, squeezing a honeydew. Hey, I don't care what you do, just please. No, squeeze the bananas. A choreographer of mine, Raven Dunbar, just opened up a dance school this year, and I asked her, would you like to have your students perform a song, a dance number for my dad's tribute? And my dad loved kids, as you all know, and they're gonna, are you ready, Raven? They're gonna perform the song from Cinderella, A Little Magic. Here we go.
To horses, it's not absurd. With a little magic and a fancy word, a swish of powder, a waving hand can turn a mountain from rock to sand and make 3 rodents, 3 stallions grand. With a swish of powder and a waving hand, no more sneaking around, no more squeaking around. You'll see how those nasty old cats will shake when they're horses with plumes in our hats. So open the gates now and clear the track. The race has started, no holding back. Move out, sea biscuit, you move too slow. With a little magic, just watch me do it. A little magic, I can do it. A little magic and away we squeaking around. We'll see how those nasty old cats will shake when they're horses with plumes in our hats. So open the gates now and clear the track. The race has started, no holding back. Move out, sea biscuit, you move too slow. With a little magic, I can do it. A little magic.
Keep the slide up, keep the slide up. Artistic Visions Performing Arts Center in South Brunswick. Thank you guys, that was wonderful. Raven Dunbar. I'll go back to the other one for 1 second. Go back to the other one if you can. That is Elliot with Cheetah Rivera. Dad directed a show in Puerto Rico with, I guess, students who lived in Puerto Rico, and then they brought the show to the Beekman Theater in New York. Cheetah Rivera came with Fred Ebb and John Kander, and she hit on my dad. Good for you, Dad. Now we're back to next slide, to How I Survived High School. As I said before, the show was music and lyrics by Glenn Slater. Glenn Slater's had a so-so career. He's gone on to write the lyrics on Broadway for Sister Act with Alan Menken, with Andrew Lloyd Webber, School of Rock. The second, I guess, part of Phantom of the Opera called Love Never Dies. He also now on Broadway has another show on Broadway, Bronx Tale. He writes for TV, the show Gallivant. He's also written for Disney, many Disney movies, the latest one, Tangled. Glenn Slater, lyricist.
This is like a room full of tough acts to follow. It's very rare to have somebody in your life who you can literally say changed your life completely. But I can say that about Elliot. At first it was indirect. I grew up in East Brunswick in the 70s. My parents were theater fans. And so of course they took me to every production at East Brunswick High School, some of which have gone on to become, in my mind, the sort of platonic ideal. I will never see a cabaret as good as Kevin Getz's cabaret. In fact, it was so fixed in my mind that I was friends with his brother Peter, and I used to think, yes, I used to think I'd go to the house and there he'd be lounging in that MC costume. Always shocking to me when he wasn't. A production of Pippin that is iconic in my mind. A Fiddler on the Roof that I literally remember being terrified when Fruma Sarah appeared on stage. And after every one of those productions, I would go to the public library and take out the LP and sit there with my little Victrola and memorize the songs. But even despite all that, I was not a theater kid. I did not have that experience of theater camp and learning my lines when I was a little kid and having that first experience on stage. I played soccer, I ran track, I did debate, and I was in a rock band. I played keyboards in a rock band with a bunch of older kids. And I would write songs and they would never play them because I was the pipsqueak in the band. And so one day I arrived at high school and there was a poster up on the wall. How I Survived High School, a student-written play, student composers wanted. And it took me a couple of days of walking past it to say, maybe this is a chance for me to write music that somebody will actually hear. So I steeled myself and that day I went after school into the room and there was Elliot and there was me and I was the only one who showed up. And we waited about 2 minutes and then he said, well, all right, let's go to the auditorium to where the theater kids are. We're having a session, we're gonna just be talking about stuff. You'll just get a sense of what we're doing. And I walked into that auditorium in East Brunswick High School with the aqua seats and the walls, and I'm sure everybody who's ever done a show there remembers, you know, the first 3 rows, everybody clumps into those 3 rows. And it was just like that. I took a seat sort of in the back, and Elliot walked in and began to talk about what it was like to be a high school kid, asking everybody for their opinions, for their thoughts. And I was watching my peers and some of my friends open up and talk about things in a way that I would have never imagined a kid would actually do in front of an adult, let alone another kid. So basically it was like a cult, more or less. And at the end of it, he came to me and he said, so here's a poem that somebody wrote, like just set it to music, see what you can do. And I came back to him the next day and I said, I've got something, can I play it for you? And I did, and he said, great, here's another one. And just like that, I was suddenly part of the theater department. A few songs later, he said, you know, we need an opening number. Have you ever done lyrics? And I had never done lyrics. So I said, okay, let me take a shot. I'll see what I can do. And I gave him an opening number 2 days later. And then after that, he said, we need a song for a male lead. We don't have any male songs. Can you just come up with something out of your own experience, just something that you think might work? And so I wrote a song. And then he said, you know, I like the way you sing it. Have you ever considered actually being on stage? Which I'm not a singer, and I had never considered being on stage. And a day later, there I was up on stage. Elliot had that effect. He could coax you into doing things that you didn't even realize that you were doing. He could convince you that you could do things that you never imagined that you could do. And little by little, I found myself becoming more and more of a theater kid. Part of it was the community that he created. There are no kids like theater kids. It's just, nobody who's not a theater kid knows that, but there's nothing like it. And the atmosphere that he created in the room, that world of warmth and openness where everybody could just be who they were and feel comfortable, it was completely addictive for me. So when we had finished that show and he said, "Have you ever written a play?" I was on board to write a play. And after it was a terrible play. And he said, "Have you ever directed a play? Would you consider directing this?" And he produced a play, a terrible play, but there it was up on stage in front of an audience. And by the end of that year, when he came to me and said, "So my son Michael wants to do the show off Broadway, would you consider writing a few more songs?" By the time he said that, I had already decided I was going to be writing musical theater for the rest of my life. And that's what I went on to do. Now, 4 weeks ago, I was invited back to East Brunswick High School to do a master class. It's the first time I'd set foot in that building in over 30 years. The auditorium is exactly the same powder blue walls, the same aqua seat covers, and it looked like literally the ghosts from my youth sitting there clumped in the first 3 rows of the auditorium. Same kids. I mean, different kids, but the same kids. And I walked to the front of the stage, and I got up on the stage, and somebody gave me the microphone. And it was like a Proustian rush. I was just back exactly where I was, except this time I was where Elliot was standing. And I think it was the first time that I actually understood what a huge responsibility he had. All those faces looking up at him, all those kids wanting to be heard, all those kids with their fears, with their fragile egos, with their worries, with their problems, looking up to him to help it be sort of okay, and to provide a home and to make them feel as if they were where they belonged. I took a deep breath, and I tried to put myself in his shoes and to say and do and to be the person that he would have been. Best day ever. Because, oh my God, you put something out there and you get it back. That's the essence of theater, isn't it? But when you put out there, "I'm listening to you, I'm here for you, I want to hear what you have to say," and what you get back is that rush of voices, that rush of feelings. It is the greatest feeling in the world. Elliot got to feel that every day for 50 years. That is some life. That is some life. I've gotten to experience a lot of things, but I don't get to experience that. So Elliot, thank you for what you gave to me. The voice, the guidance, the hand pushing me when I didn't want to be pushed, the confidence to do things I would have never imagined that I could do. Thank you on behalf of all those other, it's got to be how many thousands of kids, some of whom went on to lives in theater, some of whom went on to other lives, but all of whom were touched and moved and changed. Thank you so much, Elliot. I know you're listening. I'm sure you've been laughing all afternoon, and I just want to add my voice to everybody else's. What a life. Thank you.
Now we come to our closing. There's only one song that we could close this show with that summed up my dad's whole entire career, and it's called "Now the Time Has Come." And we have a great clip. Can I have the people who entertained here tonight, today, come on up? And can we have some extra microphones from backstage? When they're up on stage, hit the clip. Carly, you started off. This song, I changed some of the lyrics to make it more fittingly for today's experience. Please sing along with us. And if anybody would, in the middle of it, I'm going to go down the audience. If anybody would like to say something into the microphone, please feel free. Here we go. Just slide out of the way. Lights down, hit it.
Many years ago, we wrote a song as a farewell to the season, and it took off so well with our cast and the audience and so on that traditionally we still use that song. So something like this. And now the time has come when we must say goodbye, farewell or even toodaloo. And now we'd like to say, on this our closing day, we hope that we have brought some happiness to you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Now the time has come when we must say goodbye, farewell or even toodaloo.
And now it's time to say, on this our closing day, we hope that we have brought some happiness to you.
It's time to make us smile, use the troubles for a while. You taught us how to laugh and sing. And when we were near you, I tried so hard to cheer you. Thank you for all the happiness you bring. Now the time has come when we must say goodbye, farewell or even
Read the words, everybody. My happiness never ends, and you'll never see us stand. To each and every one of us, to each and every one of us, to each and every one of On behalf of my brother, my sister, and I, all my Patty, Dominic, my wife Donna, all the grandkids, we want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for coming today. Thank you.